for asking the same question again and again, maybe you want to write it down on a piece of paper, right? Or have a whiteboard. I think having a whiteboard is a very useful thing. And I recommend sort of a small one, maybe like, 9 by 12, something like that, whatever the person is, asking again and again, you can write it on the whiteboard and keep pointing to the whiteboard when they ask the question. And what will happen over time is the person will learn to look at the whiteboard for the answer to the question.
So they'll just intuitively remember to do it.
So it turns out, and wrote a whole book on this too, that memory is not one thing. Memory is actually a collection of different abilities, only some of which deteriorate in dementia and others are quite well preserved. So memory for recent events and facts deteriorates in Alzheimer's and most other dementias. But memory for habits, procedures, skills does not. And people with Alzheimer's can still learn habits and procedures and skills. So you can actually teach a person with Alzheimer's disease to look at a whiteboard when they have a question as just like you're teaching them a little procedure or a little skill. And so, for example, other times this trick comes in handy is, let's say your loved one used to brush their teeth and brush their hair and shower all by themselves. Then let's say they have an illness, they have a prolonged recovery. Someone now does all these activities for them for, let's say, a couple of months, and then they come home and now they're not doing any of these activities. They can be retaught how to brush their teeth, brush their hair, bathe themselves, because these are procedural skills. They can relearn how to do these.
That's something I've never actually even thought of before. The fact is, it can... You still open a door. They can still tie their shoes. They can still, those are systematic things or procedural, like you said.
They're procedural, and it's a different part of the brain that controls those forms of memory. So this is a book I wrote with a co-author called Why We Forget and How to Remember Better, the Science Behind Memory. And in that book, we talk about all the different memory systems in the brain, how do they all work, what problems do they sometimes have, and how you can use the knowledge of better understanding how these memory systems work to make them work better for you and to remember things better in daily life. And again, I recommend your local library if you're looking for the book.
That's interesting.
Hey folks, connecting with your benefits is our primary mission, and the SITREP is providing more options than ever.
Subscribe to our free email newsletter, subscribe to our audio podcast channel, or subscribe to our content on YouTube.
For details and links, check out the description below.